Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a 5th episode of the Casters Lounge. But, you know, is it truly an episode without me? Because I'm back. And the Brummy isn't, thankfully so. Instead, we do have a couple replacements for the weaker elements of last show, wouldn't you say, Matt?
I prefer Dom.
Well,
Sorry,
I'm still here.
Yeah, Matt's still here.
I'm still here, so definitely not a weaker element. Who was even on last week? I mean, that's how much I really.
Nexus, Dom, you, and Ant?
Ooh.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
You better know it, or else they're gonna get pissed at me.
Yeah, might get more pissed that I call them the weaker elements.
Yeah, might.
When Matt was also in the discussion, but Matt is here, one of the owners out of 2. In ESN, we've also got the second pairing, the pink-haired, the pale. It's the Jake making his
Come
debut.
on, the hair and the line doesn't help.
Yeah.
I'm not white. I'm not that white.
I mean, you are, so that's great. Grev is also here. Not quite as white, not quite as pink-haired. I guess the unicorn makes
Prefer
up
to
for
stay
that.
that way.
Unicorn.
Yeah, unicorn makes up for that, I suppose, in a way.
I
Take
look
care.
like that fucking unicorn.
You honestly do, yeah.
Without the horn, I suppose, but I'll give you the horn later. So
Okay.
nothing to worry about now.
Oh god.
Anyway, we have got a show on because it's a week where the group stages have finished off, and we're in that sort of limbo where we haven't quite got to the playoffs yet, but they're starting up quite soon, aren't they? I think I saw was it XTC versus Vector, one of the bangers. I've already
That is being
scheduled.
played.
Yeah, they've already scheduled their game like tomorrow, or so, which is
To be rescheduled again because
great.
you know how teams roll.
Yeah, that's one of many owner complaint / remarks coming out tonight. Jake obviously won't make many of those because he doesn't do much in terms of actually admin.
Wow. I admin. I just don't.
Don't
You just don't.
Takes a drink to think of something.
I admit I just don't.
Yeah, we love you, Jake, as well. It's fine. It's fine. But neither of you have that casting on for you, at least in season 1. That's why we do have a bit of a casting element here. It is the casting lounge after all. Grev in the house, who might have a couple games to talk about. I think you casted at least 1, 2 last week.
I casted a couple, yeah,
Yeah.
but I would have one to talk about, in all honesty.
I think we might talk about just like one of them. We'll glance over most of them in a 2-2 bracket, which was lined up to be not all that much, and which ended up not being all that much, as we all just stood around and were hoping to wait for playoffs, you know? And we'll talk about playoffs too, I think. But definitely just a quick summation of what happened. Shasu semi-surprisingly went through. I think overall they haven't had like a brilliant season or anything, but like, is that a big surprise to people that they went through after a 2-0 win over Wonder, the team that Matt had tipped to go 3-2?
Not against Wonder. I mean, I would imagine that they would have picked it up against Wonder, and they did so, you know. But surprised to see them even going to the playoffs, in all honesty. So
Did Shazoo game? Oh, they got Night Elf. So
Yep. We'll definitely
yeah,
talk
I'm pretty sure they'll enjoy their time. Well, time
while it lasts.
clarity in the playoffs.
they'll make some
round
memories.
16.
It's fine.
I mean, not to shit talk, but you're going up against number 1 seed, so you
They might just, you know, completely fall apart, that whole roster, just like Phantom Signite did after they played B Pro, now Night Elves. But
Team Shazoo's a new roster. They made 3 rosters.
Yeah, but they can make another
moved
one.
to Sub. True.
Anything's an experience when you play B Pro. We also had the on Friday we had the Portuguese derby. I think, is that the first Portuguese derby this season? We've had so many Portuguese teams, but not really anyone's going up against each other.
Derby, yeah.
yeah.
I think, yeah.
I don't
Has
think
to
we'll.
be.
I don't think we'll see many more, if I'm honest. As Scape moved through 2-1. I think they've got a tough draw as well. After they've changed org, they're playing Budapest 5. So, yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, GKs have like the best chance out of any of the Portuguese teams in there, but like they've got Aversio as well, so
Fuck
maybe
off, Ali.
so maybe
Sorry.
not great. Are you reading
Just
chat?
chat for a single second, and they're like, "Ah."
Are you reading chat? Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
He did,
nice
yeah.
webcam. Yeah. I agree. We could buy him a new one. In that you've gifted me a sub. Thank you very much to ESN to give them the money.
And that's what all the prize pools going to next season.
Exactly. Yeah.
My webcam.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the new Phantoms Ignite?
Oh, always. I think we might just make sure to like drop viewer questions. Yeah, sure, in chat, but I think we'll talk about them. We'll talk about them towards the end ish when we start to run dry and start to need it. But yeah, for now, Equinox, Sia, brilliant game, wasn't it, Grev? You and me casted it.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly delivered on. Like, I feel like it's the only match I enjoyed watching during this group. Not to completely like shit on all kinds of 2-2 brackets, but that one was by far the better one. So
I agree for sure. It was like just a bunch of action all over essentially. I think we always get these grindy games, don't we, when Equinox play? These 2-1s always goes to free maps, always goes to double digits for both teams, which was true for most of the maps. Certainly not in the last one on Dust 2 when Sia. Do you think Sia have improved their chances of playoffs, ignoring sort of the very tough draw they've got in the first round in Famous 5? Do you think they've improved their chances with what was a dominant sort of Dust 2? 16-5, I think it ended, but it definitely felt like more than that.
I mean, it all depends on what Famous 5 decide to do here, because the ball's in their court. They have definitely the most information like available to them. That if they play that well, I mean, we saw that Sia were like struggling on Vertigo, and the second map they also play I forgot, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all up in the air at the moment. We're still in limbo. So we just have to really wait and see what's gonna happen here.
But Famous 5, they are a bit of a weird one, aren't they? Because they can just show up and not show up. So maybe is that a good team for Sia to play, considering they're a 3-2 team? That they've got sort of out of the top seeds, which obviously you get from going 3-2. Is that sort of a good pick, do you think, for them, Matt? Have an inconsistent team in Famous 5?
It's kind of like inconsistent going up against inconsistent. So it's
that's true.
Whoever's there on the day. I mean, say they revived themselves against Equinox, because I'm not gonna lie, I put Equinox down to 2-0. Saya did not look interesting against Lucifer at all, but they showed up, showing that they ain't out of it yet. I mean, they got Famous 5, who 2 weeks ago I would have said, yeah, it would be an interesting match, but now Famous 5 kind of look like top 4 team.
Yeah,
So it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Famous 5 after their week lockdown cup, winning that was kind of a bit of a shock, and I think that put a bit more of a spin on season 6 and sort of because I think who we thought was because I didn't put Famous 5 to be anywhere near sort of the quarterfinal.
Me neither.
Semi-final stage. I would have thought round of 16 potentially. I thought last season they got quite lucky to get to the semis, but now I think that them winning that put a massive spin on this season.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially after like they were not strong at all in the first sort of 2-3 games as well. They played out like one of the weirdest games we've seen in ESN history almost. In that sort of overtime, triple overtime loss to Phantoms Ignite on Inferno or on Vertigo. But yeah, they certainly have recovered, haven't they, with the Lockdown Cup win against some really good teams as well. That we all thought we're gonna win this season. I at least, and I know Jake did as well. Sort of tip Budapest 5 to win the season before the Lockdown Cup. Is that in sort of jeopardy now? Do you think, or is it just Famous 5 being better, or is it Budapest 5 dropping down?
I think that I mean, I don't know if we're getting to predictions or what we think the finals are going to look like in a minute, but
yeah,
I still sort of have like the same set of teams. I still think Famous 5. I think they'll make it to the semis, but I think they are. If I'm correct, they are. If they made it to the semis, because I've got them going to semis, they'll be playing Night Elves x B Pro, and I just think B Pro have that edge in quality over Famous 5. I mean, we've seen, especially with that weekend, with that week Lockdown Cup, that there's a lot of possibilities. There's like anything can happen, but I just think that the Night Elves have sort of the edge over Famous 5 in that one. I think it'll be a 3-mapper, but I still think that they'll take it.
Yeah, that could be such a good game as well. Rematch, wouldn't it be, of the semi from last season as well? But hopefully, honestly, I think in the way that sort of this season have played out, especially with how Famous 5 played, that's even more so than last season. A case of really just showing up on their day. In that, I mean, last season I always tipped B Pro to have that edge, sort of. Yeah. All right. Just to
I will say there's
Yeah,
a
that's
quick
fine.
input. Last
Totally.
season, Famous 5 were the only ones to actually take a map from B Pro.
Yeah,
at the
that's
time.
true.
So I mean, maybe they'll get even more now. Miracle runs happen, you know. So I'm looking forward to it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Let's just round out sort of the post view section. Team Havoc beat Slick 2-1. I had a player from Havoc who told me, hey, just so you know, we're good now. They picked up a bit of a new roster, haven't they? Before their Slick game. I don't think it was actually streamed, so I'm not expecting anybody to have watched it, sort of. And Matt might have, of course. You're muted, I think. Are you?
How long have I been muted for?
Quite a few minutes.
A little bit. I started making gestures in like the camera, but that's all.
Yeah, I was trying to talk over what Grev said, and then Stromus just carried on. I was like, oh, okay, I just want to talk. But quite clearly, I wasn't talking. So I watched it on GOTV. Havoc, Slick.
Are Havoc good now?
Yeah.
There's no
They're
hesitation
better.
in that.
They're better.
Will they?
I mean, they're who they're meeting in? They're meeting Multi ex Regnant.
Yeah, for multi gaming.
Will
they beat them?
No. I mean, there was a lot of against Slick. There was a lot of inconsistencies on both sides. Just not trading, not just like there was a few rounds on Mirage where they just rushed B, but no smokes were used.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, one mow down, one second mow down, and then there was another one where there was literally a molly on the floor. The guy ran into it and just stood there and died.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't do this. If you want to make a playoff spot, you can't be making simple mistakes like that on a map that people play a lot.
Yeah.
So how are you still kind of like making errors like that, and then to then go against Multi, who are technically a 3-0 team, although there's debates on whether that would have actually happened if they did play Project Diversio. I think they're going to struggle, but then again, they have changed their roster, Multi. So is that going to impact them?
Pretty sort of hard to predict that, honestly. How
I don't think
how they will do. Not the game itself, that is, but for multi gaming as well.
I think even if they win, they're not I don't see them making it past the quarterfinals. I mean, I think Famous 5 or Sia. I mean, I think Famous 5 will go through, but Havoc versus either Famous 5 or Sia, I don't see them winning that. So it could be. I think it would be a shock for them to beat the multi, but I don't think they'll make it past any further than that anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. We also had Phantoms Ignite beat Mouse Plays it wasn't like that much of a blowout, but I feel like the scoreline sort of looks like it in post. I think there was one overtime win in a 2-0, but the other one was pretty routine. They go 3-2 after going 2-0. Has their stock sort of meant that you no longer consider them like even quarter candidates, Matt, in that they are also playing who are they playing? Red Bloods?
Red Bloods.
Yeah, X-Genetics.
I mean, they're gonna struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Phantoms have provided a few upsets already with different roster. I don't see this being a hard game at all for Red Bloods. But I feel Red Bloods are a team that you can get under their skin. And I think BP5 showed that the most, that if you get under their skin, it kind of frustrates them. And if Phantoms can play in a way that just pisses Red Bloods off, maybe they can somehow get a map and then take it to the final. And I mean, like,
Nah.
that's kind of bringing up my case for, I made a prediction of Geek Case actually shocking to get into the semis.
Yeah.
I feel like Geek Case would be the ideal team to get under Red Blood's skin.
Just in
and
the way
beat
they
that
play, or
Yeah, because they just play so. They're just like, it's like a wall. You
Mm.
meet a wall, and breaking it down is hard, and you have to use a lot of utility to then, when you get onto a bomb site, you've got pretty much nothing. I mean, that's what we saw a lot with Geek Case in their first 3 games. We haven't seen much of them this season because they went 3-0. They personally, I personally don't think they got tested as much. So it's hard to tell if they are going to be that team or not. But I mean, if you go 3-0, you gotta be a good team.
Yep.
And Red Bloods have got tested before against Budapest 5, but other than that, not really, to be honest.
Sorry, I was just researching if Qualsma suddenly had joined Geek Case, but I guess not, because the whole team is a bunch of walls. Haha. In joke. Project Aversio beat Requiem as well. That was probably the most boring game out of all of these, to be honest. That was like such... nobody... I mean... I don't think anybody sort of wanted to watch that if they weren't forced to. And Aversio come out 3-2. That sort of feels like they surely are the best 3-2 team, right? But that also puts them at 3-2. Aversio are surely the best 3-2 team.
Does someone else want to take it, or shall I take
No,
it?
I because it looked like you challenged
It's a little bit
me,
of
Matt.
confusion. No, he didn't. He didn't challenge it.
I
at
just
all.
thought you said no. As in,
You mean the
Oh,
only
yeah,
reason
no, they are
Aversio
hands down the
isn't-
best 3 teams.
yes, exactly. But that also puts them in a weird spot, doesn't it? Where they have to play Geek Case, who obviously went 3-0. How do Aversio look right now?
I mean, the only reason they are 3-2 at the moment because they did take a forfeit.
Yep.
Remember that?
That's
That was
true.
against the X-Regnant roster.
Yep.
So we never got to see that duel. That would have been very entertaining, at least in the second round.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're still able to, go. I mean, fair enough. They got a very easy round 5 match at the end, so that doesn't really test them as much as anything. So they can probably. I don't know where to start even. Like they can probably like challenge it pretty heavily, but I don't know how Geek Case are gonna respond to it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's gonna be a cracking game, isn't it? I feel like we'll just like talk about the first playoff games a bit at first, and maybe we start just there. Geek Case Aversio, that looks like probably the game, the best game out of these round of 16 games, surely.
Hands down, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Aversio for me, I think they're a good team. I think they're definitely a team that are very much they're good on their day. I think they definitely have days where they just seem to fall apart and not the Aversio that we've watched so many times. I think Versio for me, the ex Luxor. They were Luxor in season 5, and they got to they got to the finals, and then they lost. And it was a 2-0. It wasn't. They put up a bit of a fight. I think they could have potentially done a bit better, but I think that's sort of a recurring theme with Versio. They seem to do well, and then sort of like when it comes to like the final hurdle, they seem to fall off. So I've got Versio to go all the way through to the semi-finals. I think they're going to beat Geekcase, and then I think it will be Red Bloods going through, and I think they will do a shock and beat them. But then I think they'll lose. I think Versio for me are always a team that just can get far, but then when it's just like that last little bit, they just drop off, and that's just what I think is going to happen again.
I think they actually might go further than just semis, to be honest. Because like looking at the potential, actually, now I just realized Budapest 5 is probably going to be up in the semis. I mean, it's going to be like in that group, like the match 5 and 6, like Budapest 5 and Escape, and then XTC versus Vector. Those are basically going to be guaranteed, I'd say.
Do you think XTC's versus Vector is going to be guaranteed? Because I think that's honestly a really good game out of the ones we have.
Yeah, I think that'd be a kind of a scrap. I don't think it'll be aesthetically pleasing of a game. I don't think it'll be strat wise or anything. I don't think you'll see many nice play. I think it'll be scrappy. That's what I'm trying to say. I think it'll be kind of scrappy.
Vector have played some beautiful Counter-Strike already this season. They proved that in their 2-1 game. Obviously went 3-1 after I think they just like battered Shazoo, which obviously again isn't really that much of an achievement in and of itself, but the actual way that they did it was brilliant. I thought they had some sick nuke rounds, which I mean this season that's worth its weight in gold, isn't it? And the amount of sort of nuke teams we have this season, it's hard to really see a more important map to be able to play. And honestly, I think they'll be able to take XTC to maybe even win. I don't know. You said it was quite clear though, Grav. Did you think XTC were gonna be clear favorites?
I think XTC are gonna be favorites on that one, definitely. Yeah.
Why is that?
I mean, because I've seen them play first of all, and they look they're looking very impressive. So
they do have Seacon and the other people.
Other 4.
Whenever you have Seacon on your team, it is a bit of a case of you can do quite well, whatever happens in my books. Not to like overshadow the other players who are all obviously like quite good on that team as well, but yeah, it you can't glance over having Seacon. Well, he's never been MVP, I don't think, but certainly I think
they were close.
Yeah,
season 3, 4.
I mean, season 4 they made it to the final. Season 3 semi.
Yeah, I think it was season 4 they would have closed, but I mean that went to Navera, who, I mean, he's kicking his shit now, isn't he?
I think I think it had some unofficial awards. When I used to write things.
Hardest carry was one, maybe.
Yeah, no, I had one that was the dynamic duo or something like that. Just like the prize for like the best combo of players. I think I put Lynn and Seacon in there. They're a bit of a great tag team, aren't they? Been together for quite a while. Can't break those two apart at all. Yeah, I think we'll keep going then. If nobody else had anything else to say about XTC v Vector or anyone's chance to stay.
Me. I want to disagree with Grav. I think XTC haven't looked as good at all. Every time I've watched them, I mean,
by the way,
they
3-1. By the way,
yeah.
Yeah, 3-1. Yeah.
I think XTC, honestly, who did they play in their second game?
B-Prep 16-13, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so they did well there.
Yep.
But they played. Was it Shazoo?
They played Havoc after that.
Havoc,
16-9.
and they struggled. They struggled a bit at the start.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this isn't usual XTC. And then they went on to play, I believe, Phantoms Ignite.
I think
for their 3-1.
I think
to go 3-1.
Yeah, I think they didn't play. Yeah, they did play Phantoms Ignite, but they also played Glued, I think, as the first game of the season, where they also kind of struggled, didn't they? I think Glued got to like double digits or something. So yeah, they certainly haven't been as good at sort of taking down the lower teams, but
see, I think that Phantoms Ignite game for me was Phantoms had come in.
Oh yeah,
with a
2-1. I think it was
come in with a new roster and they took a map from them.
Mm.
And I mean, they didn't like. It was a very close game overall, and I feel like Phantoms, if they rallied a bit more, they could have taken it. So I just think that XTC aren't looking as crisp, whereas Vector for me are looking completely the opposite. They're a team that I didn't think would do as well, but they're doing 100 times better than I thought.
Yeah.
I think if Vector go through and they play BP5, because I think that would be, I think BP5 got that round of 16 in the bag almost.
Yeah.
If we see a nuke matchup,
yeah.
Do you reckon that might be one of the best maps? Because I know BP5, I'm pretty sure they will pick nuke, and if Vector want to play nuke as well, and they have good strats, then that, I mean, I'm all up for upsets. I think upsets quite common in ESN.
Yeah.
To some regards.
I
think if we're going to see, an upset, I think that will be like one of the biggest upsets.
I don't think Vector.
BP5.
I don't think Vector can beat Budapest 5 even on nuke. Like I loved watching Vector on nuke. I think they look great on it. Not just like from looking good or whatever. They work really well on it, but you just can't beat Budapest 5 if you don't. I mean, you need both the players and the sort of tactical and the sort of the interlink between those, especially on a map like Nuke, where rotations play such a huge part as well.
I mean,
but Aversio haven't they beat Budapest 5 in the some lockdown semi-final? I think of one of the lockdown cups. I think they beat them, and it wasn't a case where Budapest 5 just taking it a bit chill, which I think they were for a couple of those. I think they honestly played quite serious. Matt, you watched that, didn't you? I think it was like 16-12, maybe something like that.
I think it was 16-12, 16-13. It was at first. I think BP5 took it a bit relaxed, and then I think they kind of realized that they were playing a team that's okay. They're challenging us, so I think BP5 came into the game a bit late. They rallied some rounds back, but then I think Aversio went onto the CT side.
Do you think if Aversio played Budapest 5 in the semis and Nuke came up, do you think Aversio would win?
No.
The map or the best of 3?
Just the map.
I think if BP5 are playing in an official on Nuke, I don't think there's many teams that will beat, let alone anyone in our league.
Yeah.
I mean, I think BP5, they are very good on Nuke, but from some of the games I've seen on Nuke, they definitely have some gaps where I think they could be taken advantage of. If you can get BP5 on their T side, I think it was their T side. I think their T side is their weaker side, and I think I've seen that they can go like 8 rounds down.
Yep.
And
Genetics.
still got swap sides and just completely dominate the game and lose like 2 or 3 rounds in the next half and go to win it. But I think if you come up against a team that has practiced and really grinded on Nuke, I think if you manage to get them on the wrong side and really dominated and put like pressure on them, I think it's there for the taking. I don't think they're invincible on it. I still think there are gaps for people to figure out ways to beat them on it.
Yeah. As a series, though, I think Budapest 5 would probably win. Surely, we haven't really seen Budapest 5 on too many maps, have we? And haven't really seen them too challenged this season, I would even say. Just in general, but outside of obviously the Red Blood / Genetics game, which was quite great and quite challenging for both teams. But yeah, outside of that, they haven't really been tested. And as a series, still, I would back them honestly against against anyone in this season. The only other really eye-catching game would probably be, if he won't even use that because it's not that great, Revenge versus Wasps. Wasps, the sort of underrated team this season, have gone a bit under the radar despite being quite good all across the board. I think they only lost to Vector out of the teams they've lost to, and that was like a pretty close game when it was played. Or is that any game to actually mark in someone's calendar? They played Geekcase, by the way, not Vector.
I was sort
I
of
think
wondering.
Yep.
it's down to which Revenge show up. I mean, Revenge before the whole lockdown event, they looked a bit lost. I mean, Crifes ended up leaving after because I think their first game was against Team Scoundrels,
Yep.
I believe. And I mean,
Yeah.
Scoundrels, who are now Wonder,
I think that was
they
the
took it
second
to
actually.
overtime. They
Yeah.
took it
On
to
Nuke.
overtime.
Yeah, because they
on
were
Nuke.
15-6 up as well, and then
Yeah, and I think
15-15.
it just shows that Revenge weren't as solid as everyone expected them to be. But then going into the lockdown event, they just completely changed. They looked a lot more solid. And the more cups I saw them play, and I was like, the more they look like a unit.
Yeah.
So they went through as 3-1. And I think it depends on how much work they've been putting in over the 2 weeks they've not been playing. I mean, I don't see them struggling against Wasps. So they'll probably go on to play XB Pro. And I think that'll be an interesting one. I
Yeah.
think it'll be down to just map picks. I think Revenge are probably a bit more strong on Nuke than B Pro are. But to be fair, I haven't seen B Pro on Nuke all that often. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I think B Pro's map pool is still somewhat unknown. Like when you consider all the other teams that have already played maybe 2 best of 3s or so. Well, you know, we saw. I think we saw B Pro on 4 maps total, in that they 2-0'd Phantom Signet in round 3. But even then, it was like, you know, I think we saw at least 1 duplicate in there. So we definitely haven't seen the map pool this season, and definitely not with Victor in the team, who had just come in before that Phantom Signet game, is seemingly gonna stay in B Pro for a bit, despite being named as a stand-in by them. I think with him settling in a bit more, maybe some tactical things being deployed, could that sort of be a factor in them being even better than what they were in the group stage?
Yeah, I think B Pro or XB Pro Night Elves are going to be. I think they're going to absolutely stomp the playoffs. I think
Yeah.
they're going to get to the finals with almost. No, I'm not going to say ease. I think they're going to meet Famous Five, and I think Famous Five are going to. I think it's going to go 3. It's going to go to 3 maps. I think it's going to be close, but I think they're going to take it. But I definitely see them getting to the finals with without too much contention. I think the finals will be where we'll really see them being put to the test. I think if they come up against BP5, I think that'll be probably hopefully one of the best matches ESN has ever seen. I think because with the amount of quality in both them teams, I think that would be an absolute. That would be a game to watch.
Surely that would be like the best final we've ever had, because most of the finals have obviously not been. I mean, as all finals are, they're always, you know, not quite living up to expectations, but like
this one, I definitely see it going to 3 maps. I don't see it going to 2.
We haven't really seen any like as closely matched teams, have we, Matt? Like through ESN history, sort of in the final, it's always been one team that's clearly better. I mean, season 1 kind of, but let's not go back that far.
Season 1, that was just long-winded. I think the last close final I remember is season 3, Lupus versus Poseidon.
But even then,
but that wasn't like a Goliath versus it wasn't a big boy matchup. It was 2 good teams going up against each other. Whereas season 4 we had Warthox versus Tinks, which I mean was a great matchup, but wasn't again. It was everyone kind of knew that Warthox was going to win. Season 5 we had B Pro and Exluxor where it could have been Bacon if Bacon didn't have to forfeit.
Mm.
And I think personally that Bacon versus B Pro match would have been a lot better. But then again, Exluxor I think did have a decent showing. They didn't roll over as much as I expected them to.
Well, at the start they kind of did, but yeah, they
Well,
certainly
yeah.
recovered.
They came back.
Yeah.
Was it on the Overpass game? They certainly looked a lot better.
Yeah.
And on train towards the end.
But yeah, I think a B Pro Budapest 5 final, which is a lot of what a lot of people are expecting,
Yeah.
is going to be beefy. But to be honest, for the semi, I mean, I feel like Famous 5 B Pro possible semi final, Budapest 5 versus Red Bloods, Budapest 5 versus Aversio.
There are a lot of like different semis, aren't there, that could happen for like both quarters and semis for sure. That in that lower bracket, Budapest 5, Escape, XDC Vector, Geek Case, Aversio, Red Bloods, and Phantoms Ignite. At least like maybe 4 or 5 of those could all be in the semis, surely. I mean, Budapest 5 probably will beat XDC and probably will beat Vector ever comes up there, but like, you know, could still be somewhat of an upset. I see that way more than something like Phantoms Ignite upsetting someone like Red Bloods, you know.
Yeah, I think it's quite a toss-up between Red Bloods, Aversio, Geek Case, BP5, Famous 5, Revenge, and B Pro, to be honest. I think any of those teams could, if on their day they step up and take the victory, I think they could go on to maybe win it, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I think either way, we're up for a good fight.
Really good playoffs. If everything goes to plan, goes like on for the script, then I think everything from quarters onwards will just be bangers, honestly. Having like Night Elves v Revenge in the quarters, maybe X Regnant versus Famous 5 in the quarters, Budapest 5 versus XDC or Vector, Geekcase Versio versus Red Bloods, all of those seem like absolute bangers to me, and then it only gets better from there, whatever happens, honestly. I do think that, especially with, obviously we don't have a live finals this time around, but we are still going for that format of having the, like, I think we've always had, that the semis are on the same day as the final, meaning that it is really a case of, you could probably be, like, out of these teams, there could be a couple teams that are, like, the weakest out of the 4 coming into it, that just one day, they just need one day where they're just a bit better. Famous 5, for example.
Did you say semis are on the same day as the final?
Yeah.
No, semis are on the Saturdays, finals are on
Same
the
day as quarters, I mean. No?
Quarters are on the week before. Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Well, now that's cleared up. Lovely.
No, but it's same weekend anyway. Like
same weekend, yeah. I think
2 days.
It is just down to who has done enough prep, and I honestly think we're getting into the territory now where I'm hoping so anyway, that I get messages off teams saying, "Can you give us this VOD? I want to check this VOD," because I'm expecting people to try and exploit their opposition's weaknesses, find loopholes, because it's something that I get every so often, but you know, it's kind of like what you want to see from these teams is them taking the extra step to try and overcome their opponents.
I think that's something that is probably a lot more needed in, especially this season compared to some other seasons. I think was the what was the final for the weekend? No, what I think it was BP5 versus Socially. It wasn't the final. Well, this wasn't the this was semi-final. And I remember, they Socially let BP5 pick Nuke, and you could tell that Socially didn't really have the strats or the well, I just don't think they were as good as BP5 was. They weren't really as composed. They weren't really as set up as BP5 were. And I remember saying, you can tell that Socially haven't done their research by letting BP5 have them a map like that, where they're so dominant on. It just shows that they didn't really do their research, and they ultimately ended up losing that series. So I think for this playoffs, it definitely shows that teams really need to be doing their research, because there are some maps where teams are a lot better on certain maps than they are on others. And I think if they really researched and figured out what maps they shouldn't be playing, then they've got more of a chance.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah. Any more theory crafting of what should or could be a good game? Anything? Because like, there are so many possibilities in that. There's so many. Honestly, like with the way that it is so up in the air this season for who could win, there are so many possibilities, aren't there?
There's gonna be. I think there's gonna be an upset somewhere.
Yeah, for sure.
It's bound to be. I mean, if it isn't, it's gonna be real boring.
No, even if there isn't, like this season, I don't think it's gonna be boring. Like something like season 3 maybe sort of relied on the fact that or season 4 I mean, and season 3 I suppose counts in that, sort of relied on in the playoffs, relied on Tinks sort of upsetting their way to the semi and the final, to make it interesting, because obviously they beat out teams like B-Pro where you expected them to be in the final, for example. But this season, like, who's gonna win it, Grav?
It's a big question. I'm just gonna base it on like the Budapest 5 versus B-Pro final,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna say that probably B-Pro will close it out.
Matt,
So that is my pick.
Matt, you've put Geekcase up as a semi. Will they go even further than that, or Budapest 5 ahead of them?
Again, this team that we don't really know much about. And I mean, if that goes for the same for BP5, and the fact that they go up a team that is completely strategically different to them, and that upsets them, again, I feel like Geekcase could cause upsets in games where people just don't know enough, don't know how to counter them. Whereas I feel like I feel like if you're a Portuguese team going up against Geekcase, you'd have better chance than going if you're one of these league teams in the playoffs going up against them, because you don't know how they play.
Yeah.
No one really knows how they play except for the team that played them in the first 3 rounds, which isn't kind of decisive to know how well or how do they play.
Yeah.
Well, Equinox did in the qualifier, and look how that turned out. So,
yeah, I mean that was quite a good game as well, but Equinox did sort of lag behind after that in a very weird way. Is that the biggest letdown, by the way, of the season? Equinox coming in as the champions of Rafael's Portuguese qualifier, beating Geekcase, who went 3-0, and then themselves going 2-3. Is that the biggest disappointment so far?
I think they lost Story, who was a vital part of their roster. So I think they're starting to. I think they're still in their early rebuilding stages.
Yeah.
I watched the new guy on the roster. He doesn't have the same presence as Story. Whereas when I watched that Geekcase versus Equinox game, Story just made some insane plays. So again, I think Equinox, it was a bit of a letdown considering some of the teams they took down. I mean, I don't think Equinox and Geekcase were my 2 expected finalists from the teams that were in it. Being not Giant, being, there was GTZ Bulls in there was Saw, there was all these big PT teams that got knocked out quite early. See, I would say I'm let down that they didn't. Not let down. I'm surprised they didn't beat Saya.
Yeah.
But I think that was more on Saya's part, to be honest.
Yeah. Especially after Saya themselves didn't look like great against teams like Lucifer, and then suddenly just come out and looked like a whole new team, from being very disjointed and so on to being suddenly just this team that all worked in unison with one another. Yeah, I think that's it for that. Jake, I didn't ask you for your who's winning this season.
I think in my prediction, I said that I was going to stick with my roots. I think I said the first time I watched BP5 play, I
Yep.
think I said that they're winning this. They're winning this season.
Yep.
They were like levels above so many other teams I've seen this season. So I think I was saying that I was going to stick to it just for the sake of sticking to my roots and sticking to what I initially said. I think if they come up against Night Elves, I genuinely think the Night Elves have the edge over it, dependent on maps again. But I think they might have the edge with quality. I think it will be close. I think that'll be the final still. I think Budapest 5 will win, but I want Project Aversio to win. That's who I want to win, because I feel like so bad for them sometimes that because I know some of the players.
Guess that
and
I didn't
I
didn't invite Dan on the show. Why is he here?
A pity win.
Yeah, more of just a pity thing, because they came second and the Lockdown Cup they did well, and then when it actually came to the finals, they fluffed it a bit again. I think just for banter, I think I want them to win, but they're not going. I don't think they're going to.
Jake Spurs fan confirmed. No, but yeah, I like Aversio this season for sure. I think they're just very good. Just again, as you said, not very great when it comes to those final few steps. Yet to see them really take those.
Yeah, no, I don't see them get past the semis, but I think it would be nice for them to win it. I think I don't see it happening.
I'm gonna have to play sort of devil's advocate. I also much like you. As soon as I saw Budapest 5, the first time I watched them when they battered Revenge 16-2 on Nuke, I just instantly thought this is the team that are gonna win this season. This is the team to sort of beat this season. But I'm gonna sort of play devil's advocate. Is there not a case to be made for Team Red Bloods, who had a really good group stage, who have looked good like elsewhere, and just have heaps on heaps of individual skill, but not just that, just have a bit of depth to them too, who took Budapest 5 close when really no one else has, to be honest, except for Famous 5, I guess, in the Lockdown Cup, in a best of 3, that is. Is there not a case to be made for Red Bloods, who are, for me, sort of the main competitor with Budapest 5 on that side of the bracket? Obviously, you can throw in Aversio and Geekcase in there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they have one of the hardest quarterfinals.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're looking at teams who you expect to go through, I think they definitely have the hardest quarterfinals.
Yeah.
But anyone else got anything to add?
I think Red Bloods, they look good in the best of 3, and
they went 3-1, yeah.
3-1.
I think it's hard to say, because Red Bloods, we only, again, like, it's easy to analyze the teams that were in the lockdown event because we got to see them a bit more and in different maps. And I feel like Red Bloods and B Pro are the two big teams that we can't put a finger on how good they actually are against these bigger teams. So I think, again, it comes down to Red Bloods. We don't know until we see the match. But I just feel like BP5 have this consistency that's going to be hard, and if they can get a roll going in to get through to the semis, I think, and get close to that final, I do think Red Bloods will struggle to break them down.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Budapest 5 has faced off against Red Bloods in the not in the quarterfinal, in the
round 3.
Round 3, yeah, and they beat Red Bloods, taking 2 maps, and only giving away 1. So I'm not. Maybe it's like a revenge storyline going on. I don't think that. I
just made a case for them, since just like the way that they got 2-1 in round 3 was also quite valiant, in that they they almost beat Budapest 5 on Nuke, where they've otherwise looked quite invincible. And in the other maps, it wasn't like it was a blowout either. Instead, it was tight all the way through, really. Just let it slip on the final sort of step. But for me, Red Blood's still a serious contender, honestly. Probably won't have any problems against Phantoms Ignite, will they?
No, I don't see it happening. No.
I think that's more for me. Obviously, I'm known for hating Phantoms Ignite, apparently. But for me, that's more of a sort of a case where, or more of a round of 16 game where we sort of see what that team is going to look like going into the playoffs and sort of see what they're now cooking up, much like B-Pro or Night Elves now, with Shazoo, in a way.
Yeah, going back to that Red Bloods thing, I think I've got the scorecard up here. Nuke, Train, and Inferno were the 3 games. 16-12, 16-11, 16-10. So, like, not convincing wins, but enough rounds to not feel too unsettled on each map pick. So I think maybe if we have like a completely overthrown map veto where Nuke and Train get banned first off by both teams, we could be in for an interesting one because we're more than likely going to watch them on maps that we haven't seen them play on.
Yeah, the thing is there as well, the Nuke dynamic is honestly so interesting because what do you do if you're like Everstio and you go to the semi and you play Budapest 5 who you've beaten on Nuke? Do you still ban Nuke because obviously they're good on Nuke? Or what do you do there? Or if you're Red Bloods who almost beat Budapest 5, or really close to it, just like one mistake, one eco round here or there on Nuke, do you always ban Budapest 5 on Nuke, or is it case by case? Because again, Nuke seems like the place to be right now.
Yeah,
I've
but
said
they
it as a
showed.
rule. Karen.
Go on, Matt. Go on, Matt. You can go.
I've said it as a rule, and I'll keep it as a rule. If you're playing against BP5, just ban Nuke. Simple as that. No cases, no scenarios, just ban Nuke.
They've showed, but I was going to say they've showed they're not invincible on it. I think they've definitely got, like I said, they've got some flaws, and I think if you were a first year and you were on that matchup, and let's just say you were planning for a potential future in the semis, I think they should definitely go back and watch the game and see it from BP's point of view. Just compare it to other times they've thrashed. Compare it to the game where they won 16-2 on Nuke, and I would genuinely see whether they were beating them through skill or beating them BP5 being like not sort of half-assed in the whole
for sure
event, because you don't want to go and think we beat them on Nuke and then go in it and then get stomped 16-5. And then it sets the second map up for more pressure, even if it is your map pick.
Yeah,
it's just added pressure.
I definitely agree. Anything else? I think we've covered most of the bases. Weren't many Twitch chat questions. Get them in now if you want to have a say in the show. Obviously, if you're watching the VOD, we are live every week on Monday. Sort of changing times, mostly 6 p.m. BST, and just if you want to throw in a question next week or so, then check us out here on Twitch. If you're watching, shout out.
YouTube comments if you're on YouTube, and if they're still relevant, we might answer them next week.
We won't read those, Grev.
He won't read those. I
might read them, yeah, but I won't remember them. It's just YouTube comments, you know what I'm saying? I think that's mostly it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think me and Jake will be back later on.
Yeah, talk some owner talk for sure.
Talk some future of ESN talk, I think.
Some guidelines on how to run your own league.
Maybe not.
Can't give away our secrets.
Blue Wolves cover that in an article, so no point.
Oh, true. Yeah, true.
Yeah, he did a really good job of that. I mean, half the shit I said was cut, but it's fine. I'm not mad about it anymore. I've got over it.
Yeah.
You're the bigger man now. You stepped over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely see you back some other time, but we'll try and avoid you until then, because obviously playoffs are only gonna keep heating up the more and more we get into them, and we'll definitely talk about those round of 16 games, especially those extra spicy ones that you should be on the lookout for next week. You can, I guess, check out the ESN_GG Twitter to keep yourself updated on those, and obviously follow the Twitch channel, same handle, if you want to just watch them. I've been Strummers, at Strummers on Twitter. Thank you for joining me, Grev, starting in the top left.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Jake, you too. Thanks for the debut.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks, Matt, you blocky mess.
I'm going to respond to that. But you're welcome, Strummers.
We'll see you back next week. Have a good one until then. Take care.
Goodbye.